greatness, trying to make it out, we're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out, we're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out, we're stuck in the matrix. Yeah, I'm striving for greatness, trying to make it out, we're stuck in the matrix. Man, my auntie passed last night. This is a sad life, I'm trying to get my cash.
Yo, what's good? It's your boy B-Dell. Today we're going to be exposing the hidden dynamics of the moon. If you're new to this channel, hit that like button, hit that share button, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. See, the moon is basically an optical instrument, a Draconian mothership, an artificial celestial megastructure that is being used as a frequency modification, weather modification, direct energy weapon that controls everything in the third dimension that's galvanized by people, places, and possessions. And the moon is also a quantum satellite that is being used as a usurpation process to harvest souls for the perpetual state of reincarnation, which is not a divine concept. So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we finna get straight to it. We are about to get straight to it. Now, in order to understand everything intuitively, you have to understand ancient artifacts. You have to understand historical records. You have to understand ontological evidence that supports the claim that the moon is actually a artificial celestial megastructure, right? So what happened to the original moon? The original moon that we had in our solar system about 76 trillion years ago, it broke off. When you're looking at this illustration right here of the holy tablets, it shows the moon breaking off from planet Earth because the moon and Earth worked in symbiotic connection. So that is how you get your allegory of how Satan separated the intergalactic waters from the third dimension and created an atmosphere to where now you breathe in oxidation, which starts the aging process, right? So when the moon broke off, right? The moon, as you know it today, is in a latter state. It was once part of an enormous planet called Tiamat 24 billion years ago. And it broke off 11 billion years ago before it belonged to a greater planet called Tiamat, which is basically the same thing. So the moon when it broke off, that's what created the Milky Way galaxy, which is also in alignment with the Grand Canyon, because that was the inception point of how when the moon broke off due to the extraction of plutonium bombs, if that's when the black sun from planet Nibiru projected inside the planet where the Grand Canyon is at today. So that's where you get your whole concept of hollow earth and the black sun. So when the moon broke off, right, that is what created the Milky Way galaxy that we have in our solar system. So this is an illustration of the moon breaking off from planet Earth, because the planet Earth was split in half due to the extraction of plutonium bombs. So in order to understand everything I'm telling you, you got to understand the creation story of what happened to the original moon before this artificial hollow center, this satellite, was brought into our solar system by Draconian reptilians, or the Chitauri, what you call in the Zulu mythology. So this is the planet Tiamat, which is planet Earth or planet Kai, breaking away from the moon called Shesky. That was the original moon that we named our moon, was called Shesky, right? So with that being said, once that happened, it was happened due to the extraction of plutonium bombs, right? And now that you have, let me see. have some complications here. Now, since the moon broke off, now it is known that the moon, better known by the ancients called Sin, which is what the Babylonians called it. When you understand Babylonian mythology, the Babylonians called the moon Sin because Sin is acclimated to the matrix, which is connected to material, which is the three-dimensional paradigm that's galvanized by people, places, and possessions, right? And it was placed in our solar system as at one point in time. However, it was not originally here. Many indigenous tribes who are already known made contact with other constellations and maps did not include the moon in our solar system, right? And then at a certain time in history, all of a sudden, the moon begins to appear on astrological outlines. One should understand that the effects of the particular moon on this earth, the moon controls moods, which is connected to emotional energy and motion. Because you got this thing called the reptilian net. The reptilian net is basically galvanized by the energy of fear, which is an artificial construct because fear is the opposite of love, and love is the only thing that can basically combat the energy of the sleep spell of Leviathan or the sleep spell of Kingu, right? So now, hold on. So now when you go back to this publication, and yeah, it controls tides, it controls the growth and the decay on the planet, and most importantly, the things like gravity and the magnetic energy on the planet. I noticed when the moon eclipses, it is easy to get out of the body. So it is easy to see that it's a big difference of energy in our world, and the moon was not here. Many do not know that the change would actually be positive, which is actually negative. I don't know why he said that. Many done studies on the notion that the moon was somehow told here, and it was actually told here. The moon in itself was built by reptilians on planet Jupiter about 16,000 years ago, right? This is right before, this is after the first sun cycle, because you have a 24,000 year verification period, which is the 24,000 year equinox. The first 6,000 years, you had the sun cycle. Then you had 2 lunar cycles, right? Which threw the planet out of balance. So in the first lunar cycle, that's when the Draconian reptilians, or the Chitauri, they built this quantum satellite, which is called the moon, which is called Titan. They built it on planet Jupiter and towed it here on planet in our solar system, right? And now it says, so I know it may be said that the moon, it was basically towed here from extraterrestrials, right? Now, to support my claim, and I'm now reading out this book called the Code of the Matrix, right? And it says right here verbatim that the heaviest spiritual involvement from the satellites, because what you got to understand is that the moon is a satellite. What does a satellite do? It sends out light vibrations and picks up light vibrations, which is also synonymous to the tourmaline crystals, which is equivalent to the Kuiper crystals in Star Wars, that has a piezoelectrical system that controls everything through a frequency standpoint. So when they inject some of these frequencies down here on this planet, that's how they control everything, because we have these nanometals and nanotechnologies that's coming from the food. So this is all being done purposely through asymmetrical warfare, right? So it tells you right here, I'm gonna go back to it, the heaviest spiritual involvement from these satellites, the fallen stars, the comets. These are also hollow artificial satellites, such as our moon, which is Sin, was what the Babylonians called it, right? Now, what you got to understand is that the energy of the moon, I understand people be like, well, I use the moon as a manifestation purpose. The moon is good for manifestation only if it's conducive to the material aspect of the world, because that's what the moon controls, right? But you cannot negate the fact that the moon subjugated the woman, which is also connected to all monotheistic religions, because that's why they call it the Saturn moon matrix, right? So now when you read this in the holy tablets, 6:16. The woman's menstrual cycle is approximately 29 in a day half cycle, which coincides to the 4 phases of the moon, which is also symbolic to the Freemasonic symbolism of the square, right? It's an entrapment of energy. See, the moon in itself is what controls the woman on an emotional level and at a biological level. So it threw the woman out of balance because the moon is the foundation of a patriarchal energy, and patriarchy goes against nature because the inception of the planet was a matriarch. So that's how you know that a matriarch is conducive to a sun cycle, because the moon is galvanized by patriarchy, meaning that it's not natural, because patriarchy goes against nature. So that means that the moon is not it's not it's not a real creation that was created by the universe and Anu, who was Elion Elion El. It wasn't basically manifested in the inception of creation, this moon that we have in our solar system called Titan. So that tells you right there that the moon subjugates the woman, right? So now you got to get this book right here called The Ringmakers of Saturn by Norman Burgum. Now, what you got to understand is that the magneto-hydrodynamic photon Vedic simulation of reality is being controlled by the rings of Saturn, which is produces holographic subatomic particles that is basically transmuted from Saturn to the moon, and it operates on the dark side of the moon, which is a supercomputer that controls everything in the 3-dimensional level. So this is why it says that the identification of extraterrestrial vehicles apparently possess an ancient historical presence in the solar system. So that means that everything is being controlled in an artificial simulation, basically. So that tells you that now the person who wrote this book, Norman Burgum, right? We finna piece up all this information together because it all coincides to each other. Because a lot of people, hold on, a lot of people, when they look at this video of Norman Burgum, he's talking about 7 to 9 feet extraterrestrials getting off a spaceship on planet Saturn. You know, we have to get out of this childlike mind state by trying to attach ourselves to everything that's so-called black, because the blacks that he was talking about are actually Saturnians, and the Saturnians are black nobility, Draconian archons that controls everything in the 3rd dimension. So that's why I told you, those are the ones that took the side of Enlil, who is the jealous god of the Bible. Because when you get to the inception of creation, everything starts with black, but that everything black is not acclimated to a benevolent energy. It's not, everything black is not positive, because a lot of these beings who are, you know, these archons, these Draconian reptilians, right? They're actually black people, and these are the ones he's talking about. Your Luciferians, your Yahwehans, your Saturnians, the black nobility, these archons. These are all black people that he's actually talking about that put the planet in a state of subjugation, which thrown everything out of balance, because they came to this planet for a soul harvesting aspect, right? This whole planet is being used as an experimentation process to harvest souls for the perpetual state of reincarnation, so the dark energy of the black nobility can live out an experience in the 3-dimensional paradigm, because they don't have access to galactic travel, right? They are the fallen ones, who are your personification of the 200 fallen angels in your so-called Bible. I'm gonna play the video.
But anyway, there are one image there that shows black people getting.
So people with dark skin getting off.
Dark black.
Black skin.
Really black. Yeah.
Were they tall?
Yes.
Very tall.
Yeah.
How tall? You know?
Well, they got up the doorway. I don't know what that is.
Well, what?
They say 7 feet would be probably conservative.
Next is a clip with Preston Nichols.
So that's how you know like I
That's
said,
basically.
you can't attach yourself to anything black because these are the archons that control our reality in the higher dimensions, and they also control it from the dark side of the moon, right? Which is a hollow center. It's a hollow center that uses energy, frequency, and vibration of humans on the planet, right? Now back to the publications. So now the people that he was basically talking about, when you go to the holy tablets, the inception of creation, um, the Satanists seek mind control, dominance, right? And the Luciferians seek control the energy of humans on the planet, which is described as vampires who draw energy from others, who are called Dracula, Dracos, Dragos, Draconian reptilian, right? Saturnians, the people that he was talking about in the video. Those are the beings that he was talking about. He wasn't talking about the benevolent beings who you're basically talking about your positive Anunnaki, your agreeable Anunnaki. He wasn't talking about those. He was talking about the disagreeable ones who fell from grace, the 200 fallen angels who control everything from the dark side of the moon, right? So now I'm gonna have to get back to that because it's gonna line up with everything that I was saying. So now when you get to this illustration right here, now it's imperative that you understand that Credo Mutwa is a Zulu shaman. He was the highest priest on the land before he died. You know what I'm saying? He has a lot more spiritual rank and than the Pope does. So, he's the one, that had all the, the esoteric artifacts and the knowledge about the inception of what happened to the planet. And it says verbatim, another tribe, the Zulus, believe in existence of aliens. The Zulu shaman, Credo Mutwa, explained the legend of reptilian race called the Chitahari that stole the moon and hollowed it out, and basically bought it over here and used it as a form of a headquarters, which is where you get your concept of the dark side of the moon that's being operated by Majestic 12, which is amalgamated by Zeta Reticula Grays, Insectoids, Ashtar Command, and Alpha Dracona, Black Nobility, Draconian Reptilians. And this is the reason why allegedly it ended the Golden Age. The Golden Age was the first sun cycle, right? And our planet led us down a path of devastation, right? Now, it said it allegedly took us out of the Golden Age. So now when you look at the top right here, the Golden Age, the first Golden Age was the first sun cycle at 6,000 years. Then you have a moon cycle right here, another 6,000 years. Is where the Draconians, they brought this moon into our solar system, which threw everything out of balance. Then you have another 6,000 years, which is the last 6,000 years of the beatification period of the beast in his system, because the beast got the power from the Draconian reptilian. Remember, I talked about that in the last video, right? And now we in the last sun cycle. So the sun cycle right now, we in the last golden age. So this is why their enterprises is everything that's connected to the material world is basically starting to phase out, because the material world is galvanized by the energy of the moon right here, because there's no more moon cycle. So this is why the banking system is falling. Monetary, moon day, mood, monopoly, monetization, monetary. Everything that's connected to their system is being galvanized by the lunar cycle, which is artificial, because anything that's artificial is connected to material. So that's why the material world is phasing out, because nature must take back the planet. Right? So with that being said, now, this is also conducive to this video right here. I'm going to show you this video. Turn the volume up because I don't know how low it is.
We did. About 30 minutes into the process, he said to me, in a very distressed way, by the way, we've discovered a base on the backside of the moon. And then he proceeded to put photographs down in front of me, and clearly in these photographs were structures, mushroom-shaped buildings, spherical buildings, and towers. And at that point, I was very concerned because I knew we were working on...
I'm going to replay it again in case you didn't hear it.
We did. About 30 minutes into the process, he said to me, in a very distressed way, by the way, we've discovered a base on the backside of the moon. And then he proceeded to put photographs down in front of me, and clearly in these photographs were structures, mushroom-shaped buildings, spherical buildings, and towers. And at that point, I was very concerned because I knew we were working on...
So he was talking about the dark side of the moon, because I told you everything is operated by a supercomputer. So what you got to understand is that, you know, the human brain decodes reality just like a computer decodes information. And whoever controls the information is who controls the illusion on the planet, to where you get people subjugated by indoctrination, to where they cannot think outside the box, right? And that box is being galvanized. I'll bring it up later. But I do want to show you this video to support my claim that the moon is artificial.
Put together. Well, I was invited to go in there. Well, Richard was sitting in the back on a chair. And I'm not reading any more into this. I'm just sharing with you my experience with him one-on-one. I sat down to him and I just looked him straight in the eye, and he didn't have a clue who I was. And I said, Richard, why don't you tell people that the moon is an artificial satellite? And he just looked at me and he says, I'm not ready to. All right? That's my personal experience. It's the only one I have. I think his information is good. But I'm telling you, from my own experience, he's withholding. And I don't understand why he's withholding. I can verify that. Okay? Because you, me, our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren are the ones at stake here. You know, we don't have anywhere else to go. We don't have any place to hide. This planet is our home. It's our home. And I'm just trying to help. I only have a piece of the puzzle. I don't have the whole puzzle. I think if I did, I'd be dead a long time ago. But I'm going to share with you stuff that I have been guided to that's on the far side of the moon. I don't deal with the visible side. Because as the right hand is moving here, the left hand's doing something else. Well, the left hand is the far side of the moon. If you remember the movie Apollo...
In the far side of the moon, the dark side of it is why you cannot decode anything outside the visible light spectrum, right? Because it's projecting false light, right? Which is why they say that when you die, you know what I'm saying, you're not supposed to go into the light, because that light is actually the moon that keeps you in a perpetual state of reincarnation, because the moon is what controls material. So when you have an emotional attachment to anything that's connected to the moon, you're going to be reincarnated back on this damn planet, right?
Because as the right hand is moving here, the left hand's doing something else. Well, the left hand is the far side of the moon. If you remember the movie Apollo 13, remember the movie Apollo 13? What? Move over? Oh, it's the lights. Okay. Remember the movie Apollo 13? All hell's broken loose. They don't know if they're getting home. But they were so concerned about checking out and taking pictures of the far side of the moon. Now here they are, may not get home, but their focus wasn't on getting home. It was seeing what was on the far side of the moon. That is a true enactment, folks. Now I'm going to show you some of the things that are there. So you may have trouble adjusting your eyes to seeing some of this. Some of the things you will not have any trouble whatsoever. These photographs, I was told specifically where to look, were taken by the Lunar Orbiter 4 from August of 1966 to August of 1967. They show so much. I mean, if you know what you're looking for, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable, you know, and there's no way our astronauts missed this stuff. There's just no way. You know, 21-mile bridges, 7-mile monuments, ships sitting in the middle of craters. I mean, you know, you're going to see it, okay? I'll tell you what the Andromedans, Morine and Visayas have said about the moon. And I want to take questions, so I want to get through this. They have said that our moon is an artificial satellite. In fact, it is a spacecraft. Much of the debris on the surface was...
Exactly, that's what I said. It's a Draconian mothership. I'm going to keep going.
Questions, so I want to get through this. They have said that our moon is an artificial satellite. In fact, it is a spacecraft. Much of the debris on the surface was put there and was built purposely to make it look like what it isn't. Okay, it is hollow, it is metal underneath it, and it has the ability to leave our orbit under its own power. They say it came from Ursa Minor, from a solar system that would have the symbol or would have the name in our language of Chalta. It was one of 4 moons that rotated around the 17th planet. Now, it was built. This sounds just like Star Wars. It was built around that 17th planet. It was then put into the tail of a comet and then dragged here. And when it got to this area, it removed itself. And the first place it parked itself in our solar system was the planet that we now know of as Moldek, which is the asteroid belt. It was one of 2 moons that belonged there. Moldek was the first inhabited planet in our solar system. It was very much like Earth. Mars and our planet were terraformed from Moldek or Malona or whatever name you want to call it. It was terraformed. In other words, all the plant life and everything that is on the surface and animal life was brought here. It was brought here. You know, science tells us that, you know, everything started with a single cell. The Andromedans laughed at that. You know, and Visayas said to me, well, if that's true, then how does that one cell know to become a brain cell and a kidney cell? I couldn't answer him because I don't know. He says it isn't possible. Our solar system has been engineered, built and engineered. Okay? The whole solar system. We're going to get into some more of that, but I want to get going on the slides. Ready?
See, you know, everything, you know, we've been told is a lie, right? Because like I told you, when you go to, there was no such thing as a moon cycle. The inception of the planet was a sun cycle, which is a matriarch. Moon cycle is controlled by patriarchy. Patriarchy goes against nature. And I'm going to tell you how it goes against nature. So everything that's connected to a matriarch is under the sun cycle, which is galvanized by nature. The moon is controlled by material, right? Which is galvanized by patriarchy. Patriarchy is controls capitalism. So due to the fact that we live in a capitalistic society, now, you know, instead of getting fruit from a tree out front of your house, because Earth is a feminine planet, right? Everything on the planet is supposed to be growing in intrinsic vegetation. You're supposed to get fruits and vegetables from these trees, but because of patriarchy, which goes against nature, they put capital on everything to where they can have monetization, right? So now they put terminator seeds inside the ground to where you have male trees. Now the male trees don't produce any type of vegetation, so now you got to go to the store to get fruit and vegetables instead of getting it from a tree. So that's why I said the energy of the moon is the personification of a patriarchy, because patriarchy goes against nature because it's being galvanized by material. You see what I'm saying? That's what I'm trying to get you to understand. That's how you know that the moon is that we have in our solar system is not real. It's not real. Get over it. Right? So now this is all acclimated to the three monotheistic religions that lead up to the planet Saturn, which works in symbiotic connection with the moon, because the moon is an artificially induced state of consciousness that puts out broadcast frequencies that hacks the human body and the genetical sequence of it to where it causes a lunar light lock to where you're subjugated on a spiritual level under these fictitious religions, which is Judaism, Christianity, and Catholicism. These are all three monotheistic religions that's connected to the Freemasonic order. Because when you open up a crucifix, you open up a box, a cube, right? The cube of Saturn, it turns into a crucifix. So you're spiritually locked into this system. When you look at the Star of David, you got the hexahedron cube of Saturn in the middle, which is a form of entrapment. Then you got the black cube in the Kaaba and Mecca, which is also synonymous to the black cube. And then you got the black cube of the Jewish community. They have a veneration for it because the black cube is showing some type of veneration to the black nobility archons that controls everything in the Saturn moon matrix, right? Which controls the simulation through some type of particles that are cube shapes, which is basically negative charge photons, which is a fictitious holographic reality. So that's why they show veneration, because the cube in itself, right, it's an entrapment of energy, spiritual energy, right? So this is my opinion. In my opinion, when people die on this planet, I think that their souls is extracted inside. I got a video for it. Hold on. When people die, I think that their souls,
hexagon storm of Saturn.
I think their souls and their spirits is basically usurped on top of the Metatron's cube of Saturn, and it's basically created a broadcast frequency to where it's transmuted into the dark side of the moon and propelled back on to the three-dimensional paradigm. That's just my opinion, because there's no reason why you have the rings around Saturn, because the rings around Saturn means that you're bounded to a certain frequency because you're in a perpetual state of reincarnation. So that's just my opinion. I think that because Saturn is a gas planet, the soul and the spirit is a form of an Ethereal gas, right? That's how you entrap souls and spirits on this planet. And it's usurped by the magneto-hydrodynamic Cassini gaps on the rings of Saturn and projected on the dark side of the moon, which operates on the supercomputer. And the supercomputer programs people to be rappers, cops, anything that's connected to the material world that's controlled by the lunar cycle. So this is the hexahedron cube, but now this is what I was saying. The Saturnians, who Norman Bergen was talking about on the guy who wrote the Ringmakers of Saturn book, he is basically talking about the people who control everything as far as the monotheistic religions. They control religion because the religion in itself is a form of a soul trap. You entrap energy inside of a cube. That's the cube that sits on the top of Saturn. So best way to explain it, if you're a Christian, when you die, your soul is usurped on top of this cube right here in the rings of Saturn. On top of Saturn. If you're stuck in any form of religion, you have a connection to anything in the material world, you're going right back inside this cube that sits on the top of Saturn, and you're going to be in the perpetual state of reincarnation. Right? Because like I said, religion is a soul trap. It's an entrapment of energy. That's how you trap souls and spirits and demonic forces or whatever. You entrap that energy inside of a cube, which is why, in my opinion, I'm going to do a video on it eventually. But in my opinion, if we believe that this is a prison planet and this planet is being controlled and galvanized by Draconian reptilians, the only way to support that claim that we live in a prison planet is that the planet has to be a cube. So the planet may not be flat, but it may be hollow. So like I said, it may be a cube shape because that's the only way to where you can entrap the energy of souls and spirits on this planet to where we live on a prison planet. That's just my opinion. I don't know, but I need to do further research on it. So now, I told you, the moon is what controls the fact that we can only see a certain visible light spectrum in the three-dimensional paradigm, because it basically subjugates the spiritual eye and only activates the two physical eyes, right? So since we in the sun cycle, right, and we phasing out of the lunar cycle, everything that's galvanized by the lunar cycle, which is the artificial moon, the satellite, that subjugates the mental capacity to where you cannot see Draconian reptilians in the three-dimensional paradigm. So this is why they starting to wear masks. You see what I'm saying? Because the illusion is starting to basically unfold. Now look at my homie in the background. He already know what's up. He already caught gang. You know what I'm saying? He already know. He's on to the Illuminati just like how we are. Like I said, Illuminati, we are on to you. Y'all wearing masks and everything because y'all know the lunar cycle is phasing out. You can look at her neck right here. This is a mask that she's wearing. You see what I'm saying? Because the illusion was galvanized by the lunar cycle. So now they wearing masks to hide their form, right? So like I said, in my opinion, these are black nobility archons wearing white faces. That's just my opinion. Now you got her. She was part of the military tribunal, part of the ones that got executed, right? And this is her right here, alive. And this is her right here, deceased. So who is the real Hillary Clinton? The real Hillary Clinton is basically dead. The one that you seeing on television, whoever that is wearing a mask, right? And I'm going to show you some more. Because the moon, like I said, it puts you in an artificial induced state of consciousness. That's what the moon does. The moon puts you in an artificial induced state of consciousness to where you cannot see and activate the spiritual eye, right? It's kind of like the movie They Live. Like, They Live, when he put on the sunglasses, what you got to understand is that sunglasses in itself is made out of black synthetic matter, which is a derivative of melanin, right? And melanin or carbon is what the melanocytes is what activates the pineal gland to where you can see things with your spiritual eye. So that's why when he put on the sunglasses, he was able to see these demonic alien draconian forces in the movie, right? So now we in the sun cycle. In the sun, what does it do? It activates the melanocytes. It activates the God mind and the God body to where you activate the spiritual eye to where you can see beyond the illusion. So this is why they're wearing masks. This is exactly why they're wearing masks, because we see them for who they really are. You know, anybody with a brain can tell you that these are not the same people, right? These are not the same people. He is wearing a mask. He got attached earlobe and a detached earlobe. Can I make this up, man? Huh. Once again, Illuminati, we are on to you. I'm on to you. Now, when you look at this video, you can clearly see that she's wearing
Is
a
it
mask.
just me, or what is this creature that doesn't breathe and has fish gills or something weird?
Look at the neck. She's wearing a mask.
Robbed us so much. And today, COVID no longer controls our lives.
And look how big the eyes
2
are.
years ago, democracy faced its greatest threat to civil
See
war.
what I'm saying?
Though bruised, our democracy remains unbowed and unbroken.
Like I said, the illusion is being destroyed by the energy of the sun. You have the solar transmission that's hitting the planet. It's interpenetrating the atmosphere and dematerializing everything that's connected to the electrical grid, which is the reptilian net, which is the foundation of a soul trap energy, right? So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, for those coming in, I'm going to play this video for you because it supports my claim showing you that the moon is a artificial celestial megastructure. It's a holocenter. It's a satellite that controls the frequency and the vibration of humans on the planet. I'm going to play it again.
Put together. Well, I was invited to go in there. Well, Richard was sitting in the back on a chair. And I'm not reading any more into this. I'm just sharing with you my experience with him one-on-one. I sat down to him and I just looked him straight in the eye, and he didn't have a clue who I was. And I said, Richard, why don't you tell people that the moon is an artificial satellite? And he just looked at me and he says, I'm not ready to. All right? That's my personal experience. That's the only one I have. I think his information is good. But I'm telling you, from my own experience, he's withholding. And I don't understand why he's withholding. I can verify that, okay? Because you, me, our children, our grandchildren, and our great-grandchildren are the ones at stake here. You know, we don't have anywhere else to go. We don't have any place to hide. This planet is our home. It's our home. And I'm just trying to help. I only have a piece of the puzzle. I don't have the whole puzzle. I think if I did, I'd be dead a long time ago. But I'm going to share with you stuff that I have been guided to that's on the far side of the moon. I don't deal with the visible side. Because as the right hand is moving here, the left hand's doing something else. Well, the left hand is the far side of the moon. If you remember the movie Apollo 13, remember the movie Apollo 13? What? Move over? Oh, it's the lights. Okay. Do you remember the movie Apollo 13? All hell's broken loose. They don't know if they're getting home. But they were so concerned about checking out and taking pictures of the far side of the moon. Now here they are, may not get home, but their focus wasn't on getting home. It was seeing what was on the far side of the moon. That is a true enactment, folks. Now I'm going to show you some of the things that are there. Now so you may have trouble adjusting your eyes to seeing some of this. Some of the things you will not have any trouble whatsoever. These photographs, I was told specifically where to look, were taken by the Lunar Orbiter 4 from August of 1966 to August of 1967. They show so much. I mean, if you know what you're looking for, it's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. You know, and there's no way our astronauts missed this stuff. There's just no way. You know, 21-mile bridges, 7-mile monuments, ships sitting in the middle of craters. I mean, you know, you're going to see it, okay? I'll tell you what the Andromedans, Morine and Passaics have said about the moon. And I want to take questions, so I want to get through this. They have said that our moon is an artificial satellite. In fact, it is a spacecraft. Much of the debris on the surface was put there and was built purposely to make it look like what it isn't. Okay, it is hollow, it is metal underneath it, and it has the ability to leave our orbit under its own power. They say it came from Ursa Minor, from a solar system that would have the symbol or would have the name in our language of Chauta. It was one of 4 moons that rotated around the 17th planet. Now, it was built. This sounds just like Star Wars. It was built around that 17th planet. It was then put into the tail of a comet and then dragged here. And when it got to this area, it removed itself. And the first place it parked itself in our solar system was the planet that we now know of as Moldak, which is the asteroid belt. It was one of 2 moons that belonged there. Moldak was the first inhabited planet in our solar system. It was very much like Earth. Mars and our planet were terraformed from Moldak or Malona or whatever name you want to call it. It was terraformed. In other words, all the plant life and everything that is on the surface and animal life was brought here. It was brought here. You know, science tells us that, you know, everything started with a single cell. The Andromedans laughed at that. You know, and Thesea said to me, well, if that's true, then how does that one cell know to become a brain cell and a kidney cell? I couldn't answer him because I don't know. He says it isn't possible. Our solar system has been engineered, built and engineered. Okay? The whole solar system. We're going to get into some more of that, but I want to get going on the slides. Honey?
So, ladies and gentlemen, with that being said, now I showed you the diametrical difference between the original moon that we had in our solar system, which is called Sheshki, and the moon that we have in our solar system now, which is an artificial celestial megastructure. It is a satellite, and it's called Titan, and it controls everything through frequency broadcasts that produces Ptolemaic crystals, and these Ptolemaic crystals project negative ions and frequencies that controls everything in as far as the human genome, right? To carry out a certain agenda that's connected to the material world. So with all that being said, I showed you historical artifacts. I showed you ontological evidence. I've showed you, you know, how to support my claim and how it's connected to fictitious pseudo forms of theology. When you're talking about Saturn, I showed you, you know, all these things that support my claim that the moon is a artificial hollow center that controls everything as far as the third dimension that's being galvanized by the black nobility Draconian archons. So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, get this video out there. It's imperative we understand everything intuitively, because people don't understand the dichotomy between a matriarch and a patriarch. Matriarch is the sun. Patriarchy is the moon. The moon is being controlled is what controls material, and material is not natural. Everything in nature is natural. So once you understand that, you know what I'm saying, we live in a illusionary world. And the more we wake up, the illusion starts to dematerialize, right? It's going to activate the sun, which activates those melanocytes to where you can see beyond the illusion with the spiritual eye and not just with your two physical eyes, because your two physical eyes is acclimated to polarity, because polarity is connected to duality, and duality is not reality, right? You always going to be fooled with these two eyes, because those two eyes is being galvanized by the subatomic particles from the Saturn moon matrix, right? So with all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, get this video out there. Thanks for watching. End of transmission.